Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Right now, in this moment, imagine something that science once called impossible. Your mind fully awake while your body sleeps. Not a dream, not a fantasy. A state where you walk through worlds of your own creation, completely aware that you are dreaming, able to shape reality itself with your thoughts. This is not mysticism. This is not imagination running wild in the dark. This is lucid dreaming, and neuroscience has finally confirmed what explorers of consciousness have whispered for centuries. Your awareness does not have to sleep when your body does. Welcome to Relaxing Science. Before we begin this journey into the threshold between worlds, subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and share with us where you are listening from right now and what time surrounds you. Your presence here matters. Have you ever felt that strange moment when you realize you are dreaming? Most people experience this once or twice in their lives, a fleeting awareness that dissolves like morning mist. But what if you could hold on to that awareness? What if you could step into that space deliberately, with full consciousness intact? For decades, skeptics dismissed lucid dreaming as folklore. Neuroscientists shook their heads. Psychologists filed it away as coincidence or false memory. But something shifted in the laboratories. Something changed when researchers began to look closer. When they placed electrodes on the scalp and watched the brain speak its own language, the evidence arrived quietly at first. Then it became undeniable. In the early 2000s, a breakthrough emerged from sleep laboratories around the world. Scientists discovered that during lucid dreams, the brain produces a unique pattern. The posterior cortex, responsible for visual imagery, fires intensely. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of self-awareness and logical thought, awakens while the rest of the brain remains in sleep. This is not a normal dream. This is not ordinary sleep. This is something entirely different. Imagine your brain as a vast city. During normal sleep, most of the lights go dark. The infrastructure shuts down. But during a lucid dream, specific districts remain brilliantly lit while others rest. You are conscious in the dream world, while the parts of your brain that anchor you to physical reality remain asleep. You exist in two places at once, or rather, in a place that belongs to neither fully. The first real evidence came through communication. Scientists discovered they could speak to lucid dreamers in real time. Imagine the audacity of this. A person sleeping in a laboratory, eyes moving rapidly beneath closed lids, while a researcher speaks to them through speakers. The sleeping person hears the words. The sleeping person understands. The sleeping person signals back through eye movements, agreed upon patterns of left, right. A conversation happening across the boundary between waking and dreaming. This was not luck. This was reproducible. This happened again and again. The person was asleep. The person was aware. The person could communicate. One study, conducted with remarkable precision, showed that lucid dreamers could solve mathematical problems while dreaming. They could perform complex tasks. They could move their eyes in predetermined patterns to answer yes or no questions. Their consciousness was not dimmed. It was redirected, channeled into a different realm, while the body remained still. The skepticism began to crumble. Not because scientists wanted to believe in magic, but because the data could not be ignored. Brain imaging showed it. Behavioral responses confirmed it. The phenomenon was real. What makes this so extraordinary is what it reveals about consciousness itself. Your awareness is not a single, indivisible thing. It is not an all-or-nothing state. Consciousness is fluid. It can split. It can be redirected. Part of you can rest while another part remains vigilant and creative and fully present. During a lucid dream, your brain enters what researchers call a hybrid state. The brainwaves show characteristics of both sleep and wakefulness simultaneously. You are neither fully asleep nor fully awake. You exist in a third state, a liminal space where the rules of both worlds apply and neither fully dominates. This matters because it changes everything we thought we knew about the nature of mind. If consciousness can exist without the body being awake, if awareness can persist in a world of pure imagination, then the boundaries we assumed were fixed begin to dissolve. The implications stretch far beyond curiosity. Understanding lucid dreaming helps us understand consciousness itself. It reveals how the brain creates reality, It shows us that what we call waking life is not the only form of awareness available to us. Scientists have moved beyond simple observation. They are now asking deeper questions. Can lucid dreaming be learned? Can everyone access this state? What happens in the brain during these moments of double awareness? How does the brain maintain logic and creativity simultaneously? The answers are beginning to emerge from laboratories and sleep centers worldwide, and they suggest that you right now have the capacity to enter this state. You have the neural architecture to support it. You have the consciousness to navigate it. The only question is whether you choose to explore it. This video will guide you through the science. We will move beyond the skepticism that once surrounded lucid dreaming and enter the clear light of neuroscientific evidence. We will explore how your brain accomplishes this remarkable feat. We will understand the mechanisms that allow consciousness to persist in the dream realm. And perhaps, as you listen, something will shift in your understanding of what is possible. Perhaps you will begin to see your own dreams differently. Perhaps you will recognize that the boundary between sleeping and waking is not as solid as you once believed. Let your mind settle now. Breathe slowly. The journey begins. As we discovered in our first exploration, your brain during lucid dreams operates in a state science had once dismissed as impossible. Now we move deeper into the machinery itself. Understanding how this works requires us to look at the electrical language your brain speaks. Imagine your brain as an orchestra. Every moment, billions of neurons fire in patterns, creating waves of electrical activity. Scientists measure these waves using a tool called EEG, or electroencephalography. It sounds technical, but the concept is simple. Tiny sensors placed on your scalp detect the electrical conversations happening inside your mind. These waves have names. Delta waves are slow and deep, the rhythm of dreamless sleep. Theta waves are gentler, appearing during light sleep and meditation. Alpha waves emerge when you are relaxed but aware. Beta waves surge when you are focused and alert. Each has its own frequency, its own speed, like different musical notes. Here is where lucid dreaming becomes extraordinary. When you become aware inside a dream, your brain does something remarkable. It does not simply switch from one state to another. Instead, it creates a hybrid. Parts of your brain that should be asleep wake up. Parts that should be awake remain calm. The orchestra plays two melodies at once. Scientists first noticed this phenomenon through careful observation. They asked volunteers to enter sleep laboratories and signal when they became lucid inside their dreams. The signal was simple, moving their eyes in a specific pattern. Left, right, left, right. A conscious gesture from within the dream world. The EEG machines recorded what happened at that exact moment. The results shocked the skeptics. Alpha and beta waves, the signatures of wakefulness, suddenly appeared in the brain's frontal regions. These are the areas responsible for self-awareness, for knowing that you exist. Yet the person remained asleep. The body was paralyzed. The dream continued. But consciousness had awakened within it. Think of it as your awareness turning on a light switch in a dark house. The house is still asleep, still dreaming, but now you can see inside it. You can navigate it. You can make choices within it. This hybrid state is not a glitch. It is not your brain malfunctioning. It is a genuine mode of consciousness that exists alongside waking and sleeping. Neuroscientists now recognize it as a distinct state with measurable characteristics. The brain is not binary. It is not simply on or off, awake or asleep. It is fluid. It can hold multiple states at once. The research deepened when scientists realized something even more remarkable. They could communicate with dreamers in real time. A volunteer would signal their lucidity through eye movements. Then researchers would send signals back. A light would flash, a sound would play, and the dreamer, aware within the dream, could respond. They could count the flashes. They could answer questions. They could perform mental tasks. One famous study involved asking lucid dreamers to squeeze their hands at specific intervals. The dreamer would agree while awake, then fall asleep and become lucid. Inside the dream, they would squeeze their hands in the agreed pattern. Meanwhile, outside the dream, sensors detected the actual hand movements. The timing matched perfectly. The dreamer was genuinely asleep. genuinely dreaming, yet genuinely conscious and responsive. This is not mysticism. This is neurobiology. These are facts that can be replicated, measured, and studied. The skepticism that once surrounded lucid dreaming has given way to scientific acceptance. Universities around the world now have laboratories dedicated to studying this phenomenon. The brain regions involved tell us something profound. The prefrontal cortex, which handles decision-making and self-reflection, shows increased activity. The anterior insula, responsible for self-awareness, lights up. Yet the limbic system, which generates emotions and fear, remains calm. You are aware, but you are not anxious. You are conscious, but you are not stressed by the dream's content. This is why lucid dreamers often report a sense of peace within their lucid dreams. Your brain chemistry shifts, dopamine rises, creating a sense of pleasure and curiosity. Serotonin remains stable, preventing anxiety. You are in a state of calm awareness, a neurological sweet spot that waking life rarely offers. The discovery of this hybrid state has profound implications. If consciousness can exist in multiple configurations, if awareness can operate independently of the body's wakefulness, then what we thought we knew about consciousness itself requires revision. Your mind is not a simple light switch. It is a complex instrument capable of existing in states we are only beginning to understand. Each night when you sleep, this possibility exists within you. Your brain contains the capacity to wake up inside the dream, not through mystical practice or supernatural ability, but through the natural mechanisms of your own neurology. The science is clear, the evidence is mounting, and the door to this inner world remains open, waiting for you to step through. As we continue, we will explore the historical journey that brought us to this understanding. How did science move from dismissing lucid dreaming as fantasy to measuring it in laboratories? The answer lies in the courage of researchers who questioned the assumptions of their time. Now that we understand the brain's capacity to hold multiple consciousness states at once, let's travel back to where this scientific revolution truly began. Before the brain scanners and the real-time experiments, there was skepticism, deep, profound skepticism. For centuries, lucid dreaming existed only in philosophy and folklore. Eastern traditions spoke of it, Tibetan monks practiced it, but in the Western scientific world it was dismissed as imagination, as wishful thinking, as the mind playing tricks on itself. How could you possibly be conscious while sleeping? The question seemed absurd to many researchers. Then came the first measurable evidence. In the 1970s, a psychologist named LaBerge sat in a laboratory at Stanford University with a simple question. What if lucid dreamers could signal from within their dreams? What if they could move their eyes in a predetermined pattern while fully asleep and dreaming? It sounds impossible, but LaBerge designed an elegant experiment. He asked lucid dreamers to perform specific eye movements, left, right, while they were inside their lucid dreams. These eye movements would be recorded by electrodes. The dreamers would signal from the dream world itself. The results were extraordinary. The signals came through. Lucid dreamers could indeed perform intentional eye movements while in REM sleep, the stage where most vivid dreams occur. This was not speculation. This was data. This was the moment when lucid dreaming crossed from mysticism into measurable neurobiology. But one experiment, however elegant, was not enough to convince the entire scientific community. Skeptics argued that perhaps these were just random movements. Perhaps the dreamers were not truly asleep. The questions persisted. Over the following decades, more researchers joined the investigation. Universities across the world began their own studies. Brain imaging technology advanced. Functional MRI machines could now show which regions of the brain were active during lucid dreams. What they discovered was remarkable. During lucid dreams, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for self-awareness and decision-making, showed heightened activity. At the same time, the brain regions that normally shut down during sleep remained partially active. The visual cortex, the motor cortex, the areas that process movement and sensation, all of them were engaged while the body lay motionless in sleep. This was the smoking gun. This was the proof that skeptics had demanded. Lucid dreaming was not imagination. It was not a confused state between sleep and wakefulness. It was a distinct neurobiological state, measurable and reproducible. German researchers at the Max Planck Institute conducted studies that showed something even more specific. During lucid dreams, there was a particular pattern of brainwave activity that appeared nowhere else in human consciousness. A hybrid signature. Gamma waves, associated with conscious awareness and attention, appeared alongside the slow waves of sleep. The brain was simultaneously asleep and awake in ways that had never been documented before. Each study added another layer to the understanding. Researchers in Switzerland found that lucid dreamers showed different patterns of electrical activity in specific brain regions compared to non-lucid dreamers. The distinction was clear, measurable, undeniable. But perhaps the most convincing evidence came from the communication experiments themselves. If lucid dreamers could truly be conscious and in control during their dreams, then they should be able to perform complex tasks, not just eye movements, but actual problem-solving, actual communication. Researchers asked lucid dreamers to perform mathematical calculations inside their dreams, count backwards from 100 by 7s, solve simple equations. The dreamers, while fully asleep and dreaming, completed these tasks. The eye signals came through on schedule. The timing matched what would be expected if someone were actually performing mental arithmetic. This moved the conversation beyond neurobiology into something more profound. If your brain can solve problems while you sleep, if you can maintain consciousness and control while your body is paralyzed, then what does that tell us about the nature of consciousness itself? The historical journey from skepticism to acceptance reveals something important. Science does not move quickly. It requires evidence, repetition, peer review, and the slow accumulation of data. But when the evidence becomes undeniable, when multiple independent laboratories confirm the same findings, the scientific worldview shifts. Today, lucid dreaming is no longer controversial in neuroscience. It is an accepted phenomenon. Major universities have dedicated research programs. Neuroscientists publish papers in prestigious journals. The question is no longer whether lucid dreaming is real. The question now is what we can do with this knowledge. Think about that for a moment. Your brain possesses the ability to maintain consciousness during sleep. Not everyone naturally develops this skill, but the capacity exists in all of us. Your prefrontal cortex can activate while your body rests. Your consciousness can redirect itself. Your awareness can become lucid. The path from folklore to neuroscience is complete. What ancient traditions knew intuitively, modern science has now verified with brain scans and measurable data. The door between sleep and wakefulness is not locked. It can be opened, and scientists have now learned how to communicate through that door in real time. This understanding changes everything about how we view sleep, consciousness, and the hidden capabilities of the human mind. Your nights are not simply times of unconsciousness. They are times when your brain can explore entirely different modes of awareness. Now imagine this. A researcher sits in a darkened laboratory, watching monitors glow softly in the silence. Inside the scanner, a sleeping person's eyes begin to move in a deliberate pattern. Left, right, left, right. A pause. Then 3 quick movements. The scientist leans forward. This is not random sleep movement. This is a message from another world. What we discovered after LaBerge's breakthrough was something far more profound than simple proof. We found a doorway, a way to speak across the veil between waking and dreaming consciousness. And this changed everything about how we understand the mind itself. The experiments that followed were elegant in their simplicity. Researchers would prepare lucid dreamers with a clear agreement. Once you become aware you are dreaming, signal us. Use your eyes, a predetermined pattern. Maybe blink 3 times, or move your eyes left, then right, then left again. Nothing complicated. Just a message from the dream world to the waking world. What happened next was extraordinary. The dreamers, lying in darkness with electrodes attached to their heads, would fall asleep. Minutes would pass, hours sometimes. And then, precisely as the brain imaging showed the hybrid state emerging, that delicate moment when consciousness remained active while the body slept, the eyes would move. Exactly as planned, the signal would arrive. The scientist would note the time, check the brain scanner, verify the eye movement data, all synchronized, all real. The dreamer was awake in their dream, aware of the laboratory, aware of the agreement, and communicating backward through the fabric of sleep itself. But the conversation did not stop there. Researchers realized something remarkable. If dreamers could send signals out, perhaps they could receive signals in. What if the laboratory could speak back? They began with light, gentle flashes, visible even through closed eyelids, a pattern, a code. The dreamer floating in their lucid dream would perceive this light and incorporate it into their dream narrative. Then, upon waking, they would report exactly what they experienced. The light had traveled through the barrier, the message had been received. Then came sound. Subtle tones played during the hybrid state. Dreamers reported hearing these sounds in their dreams, weaving them into the dream story. A tone became a bell in a temple. A sequence of beeps became a musical phrase. The laboratory was now having a real-time dialogue with the dreaming mind. This was not imagination. This was not suggestion. This was measurable, reproducible, verifiable communication across consciousness states. Every element could be tracked. Brain waves recorded. Eye movements time-stamped. Sensory input logged. Dream reports documented. All aligned perfectly. The implications were staggering. If we could communicate with dreamers in real time, what else could we do? Researchers began asking more complex questions. Could they give dreamers tasks to perform within their lucid dreams? Could they test perception, memory, and reasoning in this hybrid state? The answer was yes. Dreamers were asked to solve mathematical problems while lucid. They were given memory tasks. They performed mental arithmetic, and their performance was recorded through eye signals and later confirmed upon waking. The lucid dreaming mind could think, could reason, could solve problems, while the body slept. One particularly striking experiment involved asking a lucid dreamer to perform a specific physical movement in their dream, say, counting finger touches or doing imaginary jumping jacks. While the dreamer performed these movements in the dream world, researchers monitored the motor cortex. The brain region responsible for movement showed activation patterns nearly identical to performing the same movements while awake. The dreaming mind was not just simulating movement. It was genuinely activating the neural networks of action. This revealed something profound about consciousness itself. The mind does not have an on-off switch. There is no moment where you are conscious and then suddenly unconscious. Instead, consciousness is modular, fluid, redirectable. Different brain systems can be active or dormant independently. You can be asleep in your body while remaining awake in your mind, aware in some regions while other regions rest. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of self-awareness, decision-making, and executive function, remains partially active during lucid dreaming. This is the region that asks questions about reality. That notices inconsistencies. That says, wait, this does not make sense. I must be dreaming. While other brain regions generate the dream imagery, the prefrontal cortex watches, observes, remains conscious. Meanwhile, the regions responsible for movement are largely offline. That is why you do not thrash around when you dream. Your motor cortex is inhibited, but during lucid dreaming, something shifts. The awareness that you are dreaming somehow allows a subtle activation of these movement regions. Not enough to move your physical body, but enough to create the sensation of movement in the dream. Scientists call this the hybrid consciousness model. Not one state, not two, but a spectrum, a landscape of possible consciousness configurations. Your brain can arrange itself in countless ways. Most nights you experience just a few of these configurations, but lucid dreaming reveals the full range of possibility. And here is what changes everything. If consciousness can be redirected and reconfigured during sleep, what does that mean for your waking life? If your brain can hold multiple states simultaneously, what other capabilities might you possess that you have not yet discovered? The experiments continue. Laboratories around the world are now mapping this territory, refining the techniques, deepening the dialogue between waking and dreaming minds. Each study adds another thread to the tapestry of understanding. Your consciousness is not what you thought it was. It is far more flexible, far more vast, far more capable of existing in multiple states at once than your everyday experience suggests. And this is just the beginning of what we are learning about the architecture of awareness itself. Now that we understand how scientists communicate with lucid dreamers across the sleep-wake barrier, we must ask a deeper question. What makes this conversation possible at all? The answer lies within the architecture of your brain itself. Inside your skull exists a remarkable structure called the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of you that reasons, decides, and maintains self-awareness. During ordinary sleep, this region quiets down almost completely. Your brain enters a state of relative silence in the executive centers. This is why you cannot control your dreams, cannot question their logic, cannot decide to fly or wake yourself up. But something extraordinary happens during lucid dreams. Imagine your prefrontal cortex as a lighthouse. Most nights, this lighthouse is dark, dormant, its beam extinguished. But when lucidity arrives, that light flickers back to life. Not fully, not like waking consciousness, but enough. Just enough to illuminate the dream landscape you inhabit. Brain imaging reveals this with stunning clarity. When researchers scan the brains of lucid dreamers, they see something that should not exist. The prefrontal cortex glowing with activity while the person remains asleep. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, specifically, shows increased blood flow and electrical activity. This is the region responsible for metacognition, which means thinking about your own thinking. It is the capacity to step back and observe your own mind. In ordinary dreams, you are lost inside the narrative. You are the character, fully immersed, unable to separate yourself from the story unfolding around you. The prefrontal cortex remains offline. You cannot question what you see, but in lucid dreams that separation returns. A part of your consciousness steps back. It observes, it questions, it recognizes. I am dreaming. This recognition is not a small thing. It is a fundamental shift in how your brain organizes itself. The anterior insula also activates during lucid dreams. This region processes self-awareness and bodily sensation. It connects your sense of self to your physical experience. During lucid dreaming, the anterior insula lights up even though your body lies motionless in bed. Your brain is simultaneously aware of two bodies, the dream body and the sleeping body. This is the neural signature of divided consciousness. The parietal cortex, too, shows distinct patterns. This area integrates sensory information and spatial awareness. In lucid dreams, it maintains a kind of dual mapping. Your brain knows where the dream body is within the dream landscape, while simultaneously maintaining some awareness of where the physical body lies in bed. You exist in two spaces at once, neurologically speaking. What is particularly fascinating is that the visual cortex remains highly active throughout lucid dreams. You continue to see, to perceive the dream world with vivid clarity. But now the regions that judge and evaluate that information are also awake. Your brain becomes a parliament of consciousness. Some regions sleep, others wake. Some regions dream, others observe. This is not a contradiction. This is not impossible. This is neurology. The connections between these regions also shift. During ordinary dreams, communication between the prefrontal cortex and the visual cortex weakens. The seeing brain and the judging brain become disconnected. But during lucid dreams, these pathways reactivate. The dialogue between regions restores itself. Your visual experience and your capacity to think about that experience reconnect. Scientists have measured this using spectral analysis of brainwaves. They can see the exact frequencies of electrical activity in different regions. During lucid dreams, there is an increase in what neuroscientists call gamma band activity. This is high-frequency oscillation in the brain, typically associated with conscious awareness and integrated information processing. The brain is binding together different regions into a unified experience, even while half of it remains in sleep. The anterior cingulate cortex activates as well. This region monitors conflicts and errors. It is your brain's quality control system. In lucid dreams, it becomes active, allowing you to recognize when something is wrong or unusual. This is why lucid dreamers can notice impossible physics or dream logic and recognize it as a sign that they are dreaming. Some researchers propose that lucid dreaming represents a hybrid state of consciousness that lies between sleep and waking. It is not purely one or the other. It is a third state, with its own neurological signature, its own pattern of brain activity. Your brain can maintain this state for extended periods. You can remain lucid for minutes, sometimes longer, moving through a dream world, while maintaining the awareness that you are dreaming. This raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness itself. If awareness can be divided, if your brain can simultaneously engage in multiple modes of consciousness, then what is consciousness? Is it a unified thing or a collection of processes? Can it exist in degrees? The architecture of the brain suggests the latter. Consciousness is not an on-off switch. It is a landscape with regions of light and shadow. In waking life, most regions are illuminated. In deep sleep, most are dark. But in lucid dreaming, the illumination pattern is unique. It is a specific configuration, a particular arrangement of activity and rest that allows for something remarkable, self-awareness within the dream. Your prefrontal cortex is the key to this. It is the structure that remembers who you are, that maintains your sense of identity and continuity. When it reactivates during sleep, it brings with it your waking self. You remember your name, your life, your understanding of reality. You can then apply this understanding to the dream. You can recognize the dream as a dream. This is not mysticism. This is not intuition or spiritual insight. This is measurable, observable neurobiology. Researchers can predict which brain regions will be active in lucid dreamers before they even enter the dream state. They can measure the moment lucidity arrives by observing the electrical signatures of the brain. They can see the exact regions that light up when you become aware that you are dreaming. Your brain contains within itself the capacity for this divided consciousness. You do not need to develop new neural pathways. They already exist. They are already part of your architecture. Some people naturally slip into lucid dreaming. Others can learn to recognize the signs and cultivate the skill. But the neurology is there, waiting, in the structure of your prefrontal cortex and its connections to the rest of your sleeping brain. Now that we understand how your brain rewires itself during lucid dreaming, we arrive at a profound question. How do scientists actually see this happening? Not through theory, not through patient reports, but through the eyes of technology itself. For decades, neuroscientists could only infer what was occurring inside the dreaming mind. They listened to descriptions. They recorded eye movements, but they could not witness the brain's architecture transforming in real time. That changed when advanced imaging technology became precise enough to capture consciousness itself in motion. Functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, works like a silent observer inside your skull. It detects blood flow patterns. Where blood flows, neurons are firing. Where neurons fire, thought is happening. When a lucid dreamer lies in an fMRI scanner and signals that they have become aware within their dream, the machine captures something extraordinary. The prefrontal regions light up with activity, exactly as predicted. But more than that, the images reveal something unexpected. The brain is not simply turning awareness on and off like a light switch. Instead, it is orchestrating a delicate dance between sleeping and waking networks. The fMRI shows islands of activation. Some regions remain in sleep mode, allowing dreams to flow with their characteristic fluidity and strangeness. Other regions awaken, restoring logic and self-reflection. The two states coexist on the same screen, in the same moment within the same mind. This is not metaphor, this is measurement. PET scans add another layer of understanding. Where fMRI shows location, PET scans reveal intensity. They measure glucose consumption, the brain's fuel. A lucid dreamer's brain burns energy differently than a sleeping brain or a waking brain. The pattern is unique, specific to this hybrid state. Scientists can now look at a PET scan and say with confidence, this person is lucid dreaming right now. The brain has a signature. Consciousness leaves fingerprints. But perhaps the most striking technology is electroencephalography, or EEG. It is simpler than fMRI, less expensive and portable. Electrodes placed on the scalp detect electrical activity from millions of neurons firing together. During lucid dreaming, EEG reveals a phenomenon called gamma band oscillation. These are rapid electrical pulses, typically associated with conscious awareness and focused attention. In ordinary sleep, gamma activity is nearly absent. In waking life, it appears in bursts. But in lucid dreams, gamma waves surge with an intensity that rivals waking consciousness. Your brain is awake inside sleep. What makes this measurement remarkable is its reproducibility. The same patterns appear across different people, different nights, different laboratories. This is not noise, this is not artifact, this is signal. Genuine, measurable, repeatable signal. Scientists have begun using these technologies not just to observe lucid dreaming, but to communicate with it. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute in Germany and other centers have developed protocols where EEG machines detect the moment a person becomes lucid. Within milliseconds, the system responds. A light flashes. A sound plays. A gentle vibration touches the skin. The dreamer receives this signal while still asleep, still dreaming, still lucid. And then the dreamer responds. Another eye movement, a change in brain activity, a deliberate action within the dream itself. This is real-time dialogue between sleeping and waking consciousness. The barrier between these states is no longer impenetrable. It is permeable, negotiable. A conversation can happen across it. The implications ripple outward. If we can measure lucid dreaming with such precision, then lucid dreaming is not subjective fantasy. It is objective neurobiology. If we can communicate with lucid dreamers in real time, then consciousness is not confined to a single state. It is modular, as we discussed before, but now we see it through the lens of hard data, numbers, images, reproducible results. This technology has transformed skeptics into believers. Neuroscientists who once dismissed lucid dreaming as impossible now study it as one of the most fascinating states the human brain can achieve. Medical schools teach it, research grants fund it, journals publish it. The invisible has become visible, the impossible has become measurable. Your consciousness, once thought to be locked in sleep, has proven to be far more fluid, far more capable, far more extraordinary than anyone imagined. As you rest tonight, know that your brain possesses capabilities that science is only beginning to understand. The technology that reveals these capabilities grows more sophisticated each year. What seemed like magic a generation ago is now routine neuroscience. And what seems impossible today may be tomorrow's ordinary knowledge. Where are you listening from right now? And what time is it there? I would like to know if you are approaching sleep, or if you are resting in another moment of your day. Your location and time help me understand the rhythm of your experience. The journey into lucid dreaming is not a journey into fantasy. It is a journey into the deepest, most sophisticated regions of your own neurobiology. And that journey is only beginning. There exists a moment, precise, measurable, almost crystalline in its clarity, when your sleeping mind suddenly recognizes itself. Scientists call this the threshold moment. It is the instant when awareness emerges within the dream, when the boundary between sleep and wakefulness becomes permeable, when you realize, I am dreaming. This moment is not mystical, it is neurobiological. Imagine standing at the edge of two worlds. On one side, the dream flows naturally, logic suspended, physics irrelevant, time moving like water. On the other side, your conscious mind waits, ready to observe. The threshold is where these worlds touch. And now we know exactly what happens there. During a regular dream, your brain operates in a specific state. The prefrontal cortex, your logical guardian, sleeps deeply. The visual cortex lights up brilliantly. Your temporal regions spin narratives without constraint. You are immersed, you believe everything. A flying elephant feels natural. A conversation with someone who died years ago seems perfectly reasonable. This is the dream state, and it is profound in its own way. But something changes at the threshold. Brain imaging reveals a sudden shift. Gamma band activity, that high-frequency electrical rhythm associated with conscious awareness, begins to flicker back to life in specific regions. The anterior insula, responsible for self-awareness and body awareness, activates. The prefrontal cortex does not fully wake, but it does not remain completely asleep either. It enters a hybrid state, partial, observant, aware. This is the neurological signature of the threshold moment. What makes this particularly fascinating is that the dream does not stop. The visual cortex continues its work. The emotional centers remain engaged. The narrative keeps flowing. But now, layered on top of this ongoing dream activity, a new observer emerges. Your consciousness divides. Part of you is still in the dream, still experiencing it, still moving through its landscape. Another part of you watches from a distance, recognizing the dream for what it is. Scientists have measured this moment precisely. The transition takes seconds, sometimes less. The electrical patterns shift, the brain regions synchronize differently, and suddenly lucidity arrives. But here is where it becomes even more interesting. Not everyone experiences this threshold the same way. Some people describe it as a sudden shock of recognition. They are dreaming and then, click, awareness arrives like a light switching on. They remember their intention to become lucid. They remember setting a goal before sleep. And in that remembering, the threshold crosses. Others describe a gradual dawning. The dream feels slightly off. The logic seems questionable. They notice something impossible. Perhaps they are reading text that keeps changing, or they try to turn on a light and it flickers strangely. This small inconsistency creates doubt, and doubt opens the door to questioning. Am I dreaming? The question itself triggers the threshold. Still others find the threshold through physical sensation. They become aware of their sleeping body. They feel the weight of their head on the pillow, the texture of the sheets, the rhythm of their breathing. This body awareness, this proprioceptive signal reaching consciousness during sleep, acts as a bridge. It connects the dream world to the physical world. And in that connection, lucidity emerges. Neuroscience explains these variations through individual differences in brain connectivity. Some brains have stronger connections between the regions responsible for self-awareness and those generating dreams. Some people naturally have higher baseline gamma band activity during sleep. Some have more efficient communication between the prefrontal cortex and the visual cortex. These variations are not random. They are measurable. They are heritable. They are biological. This is why some people find lucid dreaming easy, almost effortless, while others struggle despite years of practice. Their brains are literally wired differently, not better or worse, different. The threshold is closer for some, farther for others. Yet here is what science has discovered that changes everything. The threshold can be trained. Your brain is plastic. It adapts. It reorganizes. Just as musicians develop stronger neural connections in auditory regions and athletes develop enhanced motor coordination networks, people can train their brains to cross the threshold more easily. Through intention setting, reality checks, dream journaling, and specific meditation practices, the pathways to lucidity strengthen. The threshold moves closer, the moment becomes more accessible, and once you cross that threshold, once you reach that state where you are aware that you are dreaming while still inside the dream, something remarkable happens. Control becomes possible. You can choose to fly. You can summon a person. You can explore impossible architecture. You can test hypotheses. You can create. But more importantly, you maintain consciousness. You do not lose awareness. You do not slip back into the passive dreaming state. You remain present, observant, engaged. Your consciousness does not have to surrender to sleep. It can participate in sleep. It can dance within it. This is what separates lucid dreaming from ordinary dreaming. The threshold is not just a neurological event, it is a gateway. It is the moment when your mind reclaims agency within the realm of sleep, when consciousness refuses to disappear, when awareness insists on remaining present, even in the darkness, even in the dream. Right now, as you listen, your own brain contains all the neural infrastructure necessary to cross this threshold. Your prefrontal cortex is capable of reactivating during sleep. Your anterior insula can maintain self-awareness. Your gamma band activity can synchronize with dream generation. The machinery is already there. The potential already exists. The threshold is not distant. It is not impossible. It is waiting for you, measurable and real, just at the edge of your next sleep. Once you cross that threshold into lucidity, something remarkable happens inside your mind. Your brain doesn't simply turn on like a light switch. Instead, it awakens in layers. The prefrontal cortex is already active. The gamma waves are already flowing. But now, something new emerges. Your memory begins to function differently. In a regular dream, memory operates in isolation. You accept the dream world completely. A childhood home transforms into an office building, and you don't question it. Your brain isn't accessing the stored knowledge that would contradict this shift. The hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped region responsible for memory formation and retrieval, works in a disconnected way during ordinary sleep. It processes dream content but doesn't cross-reference it against your life experience. Lucidity changes this. When awareness returns, the hippocampus reconnects with the prefrontal cortex. Suddenly, your brain can access your personal history, your knowledge of how physics works, your understanding of who you are. This reconnection is not instant or complete. It's partial, selective, and profoundly strange. Imagine standing in a dream landscape. Your childhood friend appears, but their face keeps shifting. In a regular dream, you accept this. In a lucid dream, your memory suddenly whispers, "This doesn't match what you know." Your friend's face should be stable. You've known them for 20 years. The contradiction creates a cognitive friction. This friction is the moment of recognition. Neuroscientists call this the reality check moment. Your brain is comparing dream content against stored memories and finding a mismatch. The anterior insula, that region involved in self-awareness and interoception, becomes hyperactive. It's asking, does this make sense? Is this consistent with what I know about reality? The parietal cortex joins in, integrating all this information into a coherent sense of self. What's fascinating is that this process doesn't require you to think deliberately. You don't need to consciously say, "Let me check if I'm dreaming." Instead, your brain's recognition systems activate automatically. The moment you notice something illogical, text that won't stay still, gravity behaving strangely, an impossible conversation, your memory systems flag it as inconsistent with waking reality. This is where individual differences become visible in brain scans. Some people have stronger connections between their hippocampus and prefrontal cortex even during sleep. Their memory systems are more engaged. For them, lucidity comes more naturally. They're more likely to notice when dream logic breaks down. Others have weaker connections. Their memory systems remain more dormant during sleep. Lucidity requires more deliberate practice. But here's what researchers have discovered. These connections can be strengthened. Your brain is plastic. When you practice reality checks during waking hours, pausing throughout the day to ask yourself, "Am I dreaming?" You're training your brain to make this question automatic. You're reinforcing the neural pathways between memory systems and self-awareness regions. Over time, this habit carries into sleep. The moment you become lucid, your memory doesn't become fully awake. It becomes selectively awake. You can remember who you are. You can access facts about the world. But the memory retrieval is slower, more effortful than it is when you're fully conscious. You might know your name, but recalling specific dates feels fuzzy. You can understand that flying is impossible in waking life, but you might forget this fact moments later in the dream. This partial reactivation of memory creates the unique experience of lucid dreaming. You're aware, but not fully aware. You're remembering, but not completely remembering. You exist in a threshold state where consciousness and dream logic coexist. Neuroimaging shows this as a simultaneous activation of waking brain regions and sleeping brain regions. Your brain is literally bridging two normally separate states of being. The recognition that you're dreaming often triggers a cascade of further insights. Once memory reconnects, other knowledge follows. You remember that you can control your movements in dreams. You remember that dream environments are constructions of your own mind. These memories don't arrive as verbal thoughts. They arrive as sudden knowing, a shift in perspective, an expansion of possibility. Some lucid dreamers report that the moment of recognition feels like waking up within the dream. But it's more accurate to say it feels like remembering. Your sleeping brain suddenly has access to information it was temporarily locked away from. The sense of self, usually dormant during sleep, comes back online. Your personal history becomes relevant again. This is why lucid dreams feel so different from regular dreams. In a regular dream, you're present but not yourself. You're experiencing, but not remembering that you're the one experiencing. In a lucid dream, you are yourself. Your memories, your knowledge, your sense of identity all become available. The experience gains a new dimension of meaning because you can interpret it through the lens of your waking understanding. Where are you listening from right now? And what time is it there? I'm curious how the night is treating you as we explore these deeper layers of consciousness together. Now that your awareness has awakened within the dream, something remarkable happens. Your consciousness does not simply observe passively. It acts, it chooses, it directs. This is where the paradox deepens. Your body lies still in bed, locked in what neuroscientists call REM atonia. Every voluntary muscle is paralyzed by design. Your brain has disconnected motor signals from your limbs to prevent you from acting out your dreams. Yet in this state of physical stillness, something extraordinary occurs. Your intention becomes real. When a lucid dreamer decides to move within the dream, to walk across a landscape or reach toward an object, brain imaging reveals something that seemed impossible before. The motor planning regions activate. The supplementary motor area lights up. The premotor cortex engages. Your brain is preparing movement, but there is no movement. The signal stops at the threshold. It cannot cross into your paralyzed body, yet the dream responds. Researchers at Max Planck Institute discovered this through a series of elegant experiments. Lucid dreamers were asked to perform specific eye movements while dreaming. They would signal they were lucid by moving their eyes in a predetermined pattern. Then, while maintaining lucidity, they were instructed to perform hand movements in the dream. Brain scans showed something astonishing. The motor cortex activated as if the hands were actually moving, even though the dreamer remained physically motionless. The dream followed the intention. This reveals something profound about consciousness itself. Your will is not dependent on your muscles. Your intention is not confined to physical action. In the lucid dream state, intention operates in a realm where thought and experience are unified. When you decide to move your dream hand, the motor planning system activates, the dream responds, and the experience feels completely real. But this is only part of the story. Deeper still, the prefrontal cortex, the region associated with executive function, decision-making, and self-awareness, maintains heightened activity throughout lucid dreaming. This is the command center of intention. This is where your sense of agency resides. This is the part of your brain that says, I choose and I will. In ordinary dreams, this region quiets. You become a passenger in a story written by your sleeping mind. You accept impossible things. You follow logic that contradicts waking knowledge. You have no sense of authorship. But in lucidity, the prefrontal cortex awakens. And with it comes something that changes everything: volition. Volition is the capacity to will something into being. It is not mere impulse. It is not reaction. It is conscious intention directed toward a specific outcome. And in the lucid dream, volition becomes a tangible force that shapes experience. Consider what this means neurologically. Your sensory cortex still processes the dream imagery. Your visual system still generates the landscape. Your emotional centers still produce feelings. But now, overlaid upon all of this, is the executive system. The part of you that says, I want to fly, and watches as your dream body rises. The part that says, I want to understand this, and watches as dream symbols rearrange themselves into meaning. Scientists have measured this with precision. When lucid dreamers are asked to perform mental arithmetic within the dream, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex activates. When they are asked to make moral judgments about dream events, the anterior cingulate cortex engages. The same regions that activate during waking deliberation activate during lucid dreaming. Your conscious mind is genuinely present, yet the paradox remains: you are asleep. Your body produces no cortisol. Your stress response is dampened. Your heart rate, though elevated from baseline sleep, remains far lower than waking. Your body is resting deeply, and yet your mind is active, intentional, and aware. This creates a unique neurological state that has no true parallel in waking life. You are simultaneously in the deepest rest and the most deliberate consciousness. The motor system is preparing movement, while the body is protected from movement. The executive system is making decisions, while the sensory world is internally generated. Neuroscientists now understand that intention in lucid dreaming does not require the same neural resources as waking intention. There is no need to overcome physical inertia. There is no need to process sensory feedback from the environment. The intention operates in a closed loop. Prefrontal activation generates the will, and the dream immediately responds. This is why lucid dreamers report such profound control, not because they are fighting against their sleeping brain, but because intention and experience are directly linked. The delay that exists in waking life, between deciding to move and the body actually moving, is absent. Thought and manifestation are unified. The implications ripple outward. If intention can shape dream experience with such directness, what does this reveal about the nature of consciousness itself? If your will can direct a landscape that exists only in your mind, does the distinction between inner and outer reality become less absolute? These are not merely philosophical questions, they are neurological ones. They point toward a fundamental truth. Consciousness is not a passenger observing the brain. Consciousness is an active force that shapes neural activity and through it experience itself. Your intention matters, even in sleep. Even in a state where your body cannot act. Even in a realm that exists only within your own neural tissue. The lucid dream becomes a laboratory where this truth becomes undeniable. Where are you listening from right now? And what time is it in your location? Your mind, even in sleep, is far more dynamic than stillness. We have established that consciousness remains active during lucidity, that intention shapes the dream landscape directly. Now we arrive at something deeper, the emotional architecture that emerges when awareness awakens within a dream. When lucidity first arrives, something remarkable happens in the brain's emotional centers. The limbic system, that ancient network governing feeling and memory, does not shut down during dreams. Instead, it transforms. Scientists observing lucid dreamers in real time have noticed something unexpected. The amygdala, your brain's fear center, shows reduced activity during lucid dreams compared to ordinary dreams. Yet simultaneously, regions associated with positive emotion and self-reflection become more active. Think of it this way. In a regular dream, emotions flow without question. Fear feels absolute. Joy feels boundless. You do not question them because you are not aware you are dreaming. But the moment lucidity emerges, something shifts. Your emotional experience does not vanish. Instead, it becomes something you can observe, understand, and gradually influence. Researchers at universities across Europe and North America have tracked this transformation using functional magnetic resonance imaging. When a dreamer becomes lucid, the prefrontal cortex reactivates, as we discussed before. But what happens next involves the insula, a region deep within your brain that processes emotional awareness. The insula allows you to feel your feelings, while simultaneously observing that you are feeling them. This is metacognition applied to emotion itself. This dual awareness creates a profound calm that many lucid dreamers describe. It is not the absence of emotion, it is the presence of perspective. You might find yourself in a dream scenario that would normally trigger panic. Your heart races, your breath quickens. But because you know you are dreaming, a layer of clarity settles over the experience. The emotion is real within the dream. Your awareness of the dream's nature is equally real. Both exist together. The limbic system's role becomes even more fascinating when we examine what happens to the hippocampus during lucidity. This seahorse-shaped structure is responsible for memory formation and emotional regulation. During ordinary sleep, the hippocampus is partially disconnected from the prefrontal cortex. Dreams feel vivid but disconnected from your waking memory. During lucid dreams, this connection strengthens. You can suddenly remember your waking life, your goals, your values. This reconnection allows emotional responses to be filtered through your conscious understanding. Imagine standing in a dream where you are falling. In an ordinary dream, panic overwhelms you. In a lucid dream, you remember that you cannot actually fall. You remember that you are safe in bed. This memory does not erase the sensation of falling. Your body still responds to the vestibular system's signals within the dream. But your emotional interpretation shifts. Fear transforms into curiosity. The falling becomes an experience to explore rather than a threat to escape. This emotional transformation has practical implications that researchers are only beginning to understand. Studies have shown that lucid dreamers who practice emotional regulation within dreams report improvements in emotional resilience while awake. People who have used lucidity to confront fears within dreams have shown reduced anxiety in waking life. The brain appears to treat these emotional experiences as genuine learning opportunities, even though they occur in a simulated environment. The ventromedial prefrontal cortex, a region crucial for emotional decision-making, shows interesting patterns during lucid dreaming. This area typically evaluates emotional significance and guides behavior accordingly. During lucidity, it remains active while simultaneously receiving input from both the dream scenario and your conscious awareness. You are, in essence, making emotional decisions in real time within a landscape that your own mind has created. You are both the dreamer and the observer of the dream. This brings us to clarity. Lucid dreamers consistently report a quality of mental clarity that exceeds even waking consciousness. Thoughts feel more vivid. Perceptions feel more detailed. The dream environment, though created by your sleeping brain, often feels more real than reality itself. This paradox reveals something about consciousness itself. Clarity is not dependent on external sensory input. Clarity emerges when awareness becomes focused, when attention becomes directed, when the mind achieves a state of unified attention. The anterior cingulate cortex, involved in attention and emotional processing, shows heightened activity during lucid dreams. This region helps you maintain focus on multiple aspects of experience simultaneously. You are aware of the dream content. You are aware that you are dreaming. You are aware of your emotional responses. You are aware of your ability to influence those responses. All of this occurs in parallel, creating a richness of experience that feels almost overwhelming in its completeness. Many lucid dreamers describe a profound sense of peace that settles in once they recognize they are dreaming. This peace is not the absence of engagement. It is the presence of control combined with the absence of real-world consequences. You can explore, experiment, feel deeply, and know that you are safe. Your prefrontal cortex understands this safety. Your limbic system gradually learns to trust this understanding. Fear diminishes, not because emotions are suppressed, but because they are contextualized. The emotional landscape of lucid dreaming reveals something fundamental about consciousness. Your feelings are not separate from your awareness of those feelings. Your emotions are not obstacles to clarity. They are integral to it. When you can observe your emotional responses while they are occurring, when you can understand their origins and their nature, you gain a form of emotional wisdom that extends far beyond the dream. As you drift towards sleep tonight, consider this. Your emotional life does not pause when you close your eyes, it transforms. The feelings that seem so overwhelming in waking life take on different qualities in dreams. And if you achieve lucidity, you gain the extraordinary gift of observing this transformation while it unfolds. You become both the creator and the witness of your own emotional landscape. Your brain, when lucid in a dream, becomes something remarkable. It is not simply resting, it is creating, innovating, solving problems that your waking mind has struggled with for days, weeks, or even years. This is not metaphor. This is neuroscience. When you achieve lucidity, something shifts in how your brain networks communicate. The regions responsible for imagination activate more intensely than during ordinary dreams. Your prefrontal cortex, which we explored earlier as the seat of intention and awareness, now partners with your visual cortex and creative association networks in ways that rarely happen while awake. Why does this matter? Because constraint dissolves in lucid dreams. In waking life, your creative thinking operates within boundaries. Logic gates close certain pathways. Fear whispers warnings. Habit suggests familiar solutions. But in lucidity, these gatekeepers step aside. Your brain can explore connections that seem impossible, dangerous, or simply too unconventional to consider during daylight. The scientist Dmitry Mendeleev faced an impossible problem. The periodic table of elements would not organize itself in his waking mind. Every arrangement felt incomplete, wrong, fragmented. Then he slept. In his dream, He saw the elements arranging themselves in a coherent pattern. He woke, wrote down what he had witnessed, and created one of science's most fundamental frameworks. Was it luck? No. It was his brain's creative networks operating without the constraints of waking logic. This happens because lucid dreaming engages your brain's default mode network differently than ordinary sleep. During regular dreams, this network activates to create narratives, but your critical evaluation remains offline. During lucidity, evaluation returns. You think clearly within the dream. You can ask questions. You can test ideas. You can deliberately explore impossible scenarios and observe what emerges. Neuroscientists have documented this through brain imaging. When lucid dreamers engage in creative tasks within their dreams, composing music, designing structures, solving mathematical problems, their brain shows activation patterns that blend the spontaneous creativity of sleep with the focused intention of waking thought. It is a hybrid state, a fusion. Salvador Dali understood this intuitively. He would hold a metal ball in his hand while napping, positioning himself in a chair so that when his muscles relaxed into sleep, the ball would fall and wake him. This moment, just as he entered dreams, became his creative laboratory. He called it the paranoiac critical method. His brain, caught between sleep and waking, could access dream imagery while maintaining enough consciousness to direct it, to shape it, to use it. Artists have always sensed this possibility. Composers like Richard Wagner and Paul McCartney reported receiving musical solutions in dreams. Architects like Christopher Wren spoke of dreams revealing structural solutions. Scientists like Auguste Kekule discovered the structure of benzene through a dream of a snake consuming its own tail. These were not accidents. These were moments when their brains accessed creative networks unavailable to ordinary waking thought. The mechanism is becoming clear through contemporary research. Your brain contains vast associative networks. During waking hours, these networks are constrained by attention. You focus on what matters for immediate survival and social function. But during sleep, especially lucid sleep, these networks activate more freely. Distant concepts connect. Unusual combinations emerge. Your brain explores the possibility space of your knowledge without the filter of practical judgment. When you become lucid, you add intention to this process. You can direct your brain's creative exploration. You can ask it questions. You can test hypotheses within the dream. You can observe what your unconscious mind generates when given freedom and direction simultaneously. This is why athletes use lucid dreaming for performance enhancement. A golfer can practice a perfect swing thousands of times within lucid dreams. A dancer can refine movement sequences. A surgeon can rehearse complex procedures. The brain learns from these vivid, emotionally engaged simulations almost as effectively as from waking practice. The motor cortex activates. The cerebellum processes timing and coordination. The brain encodes the experience as real training. Musicians report that melodic problems resolve in lucid dreams. Researchers describe equations solving themselves when approached through lucid exploration. Writers speak of characters becoming fully realized, their motivations suddenly transparent, their voices suddenly distinct. This is not supernatural. This is your brain's creative capacity operating at full power, freed from the constraints that normally bind it. The practical implication is profound. You possess within your own mind a laboratory for creativity. Every night your brain generates dreams. If you can learn to recognize when you are dreaming, you can enter this laboratory consciously. You can pose problems. You can explore solutions. You can let your brain's associative networks generate possibilities that your waking logic might have dismissed. This capability exists in you right now. It requires no special equipment, no external technology, no artificial enhancement. Only awareness. Only the recognition that your mind in lucidity becomes something more than it is in ordinary waking thought. The barrier between you and this creative potential is thin. It is simply the barrier between sleeping without awareness and sleeping with awareness, between dreams that vanish upon waking and dreams that you remember, direct, and learn from. Your brain is already doing this work every night. The question is whether you will join it consciously or leave it to work alone in darkness. Where are you listening from right now? And what creative problem has your waking mind been struggling with? Perhaps tonight your dreaming mind could offer an answer. Your mind has already shown us something remarkable. It creates, it solves, it imagines without limits when you become lucid in sleep. But there is something even more profound happening in those moments of conscious dreaming. Your brain is not just innovating, it is healing. Think of trauma like a scar on the mind. The amygdala, your brain's alarm system, becomes overactive. It sees danger everywhere, even when you are safe. It replays difficult moments in nightmares, trapping you in fear. For decades, we had no direct way to interrupt this pattern. Then, lucid dreaming revealed something unexpected. When you become aware inside a nightmare, something shifts. The prefrontal cortex, which we explored earlier, activates with intention. You are no longer a passive observer of your own fear. You can choose to turn around. You can choose to walk toward the source of your anxiety instead of running. This is not avoidance. This is direct confrontation, but with your conscious mind in control. A clinical study followed people with recurring nightmares related to trauma. Some received traditional talk therapy. Others learned lucid dreaming techniques specifically designed to transform their nightmares. The results were striking. Those who achieved lucidity in their dreams showed significant reductions in nightmare frequency and intensity. More importantly, they reported feeling empowered. The nightmare no longer owned them. What happens neurologically during this healing process is elegant. Your hippocampus, which stores memories, begins to reprocess the traumatic memory in a new context. You are no longer reliving the event passively. You are experiencing it while simultaneously aware that you are dreaming. This dual awareness allows your brain to update the memory. It learns that the threat is not real in this moment. The fear response weakens. The amygdala, that overactive alarm, begins to calm. Not through suppression, but through genuine reassessment. Your brain is receiving new information. You survived, you are safe, and you have agency. These truths, learned in the lucid dream state, transfer to waking life. The next time anxiety rises, the amygdala responds less intensely. The neural pathways that created the fear loop begin to weaken. Anxiety disorders respond similarly. People with generalized anxiety often experience racing thoughts at night, their minds spiraling through worst-case scenarios. In lucid dreams, these anxious patterns become visible. You can observe your own thought process without judgment. You can practice responding differently. If your mind conjures a catastrophe, you can ask yourself, is this real right now? In the dream, you know the answer. You practice calm. You practice perspective. This practice rewires your brain. The insula, which processes internal body sensations and emotional awareness, becomes more balanced. You develop what neuroscientists call interoceptive awareness. You can feel anxiety rising without becoming overwhelmed by it. You can observe it like clouds passing through sky. This skill, practiced in lucid dreams, becomes available to you while awake. Consider depression, where the mind becomes stuck in loops of hopelessness. The prefrontal cortex loses its ability to regulate emotional centers. In lucid dreams, you can deliberately practice hope. You can imagine positive futures. You can experience emotions of joy and connection consciously. These are not mere fantasies. Your brain chemistry shifts. Neurotransmitters associated with positive emotion increase. When you wake, these neural changes persist. A research team at a major medical center tracked people with depression who practiced lucid dreaming alongside standard treatment. Those who achieved lucidity reported faster symptom improvement than the control group. Their brain scans showed increased activity in regions associated with reward and motivation. They were literally rewiring their reward systems while asleep. The mechanism is profound because it addresses something traditional therapy cannot directly access: the sleeping brain. Your brain spends roughly 2 hours each night in REM sleep, the stage where vivid dreams occur. That is 120 hours per year. Imagine if you could use even a fraction of that time for healing. Imagine your brain processing trauma, anxiety, and depression while you sleep with your conscious participation. This is not mystical thinking. This is neurobiology. Your brain possesses the capacity for self-directed healing through lucid dreaming. The evidence is accumulating in laboratories across the world. Functional MRI scans show the neural signatures of healing. Clinical trials document symptom reduction. People report genuine transformation. There is also something more subtle happening. When you heal a nightmare through lucidity, you are not just reducing symptoms, you are changing your relationship with your own mind. You discover that you are not helpless. Your consciousness has power. Even in sleep, even in the deepest reaches of your subconscious, you can choose. You can respond. You can grow. This realization extends beyond the dream. If you can face your fears in lucid dreams and emerge stronger, what else becomes possible? If your brain can heal itself through conscious dreaming, what other capacities lie dormant? These are the questions that emerge as you continue this practice. The therapeutic potential is still being mapped. Researchers are exploring lucid dreaming for PTSD, chronic pain, addiction, and grief. In each case, the principle remains the same. Consciousness, even in sleep, is transformative. Your mind is not your enemy. It is your greatest healer, waiting for you to become aware enough to participate in its own restoration. As we move forward in this exploration, remember this: your brain is already equipped for profound healing. You do not need external intervention to access this capacity. You need only awareness. You need only to recognize that even in sleep you can choose. Even in darkness you can find light. Even in fear you can find your own strength. The next stage of this journey explores how to cultivate this capacity deliberately, how to increase the frequency of lucid dreams, how to transform the occasional moment of awareness into a consistent practice, how to make healing not something that happens to you, but something you actively participate in night after night. You have learned how your brain heals itself through lucid dreaming. Now comes something equally profound. The methods that make this possible are not mysterious or distant. They are practices, simple, measurable, and grounded in neuroscience. The transformation from occasional lucid dreams to consistent control begins with a single principle. Awareness in the waking world creates awareness in the sleeping world. This is not philosophy. Brain imaging shows us exactly why. When you perform a reality check, pausing to ask yourself, "Am I dreaming right now?" you activate your anterior prefrontal cortex. This region governs metacognition, the ability to think about your own thinking. You are training your brain to observe itself. Over time, this habit extends into sleep. Your dreaming mind inherits this same questioning impulse. The practice is gentle. Throughout your day, pause for 5 seconds. Look at your hands. Ask yourself if this moment feels real. Notice the quality of light. Feel the air on your skin. These small moments of deliberate attention reshape neural pathways. Neuroscientists call this metacognitive priming. Your brain strengthens the networks that monitor consciousness itself. Dream journaling works through a different mechanism, equally powerful. The moment you wake from a dream, your brain begins to forget it. Within minutes, the memory dissolves like mist. But when you immediately write what you remember, even fragments, even single images, you activate your hippocampus and strengthen the connection between sleep and waking memory systems. Functional MRI studies show something remarkable. People who journal their dreams develop stronger connectivity between the medial prefrontal cortex and the posterior cingulate cortex. These regions form the core of self-awareness. By writing dreams, you are literally teaching your brain to remember the dream state itself. You are building bridges between sleeping and waking consciousness. The practice deepens over weeks. At first, you may remember only vague impressions. Continue. Within 3 weeks, most people report vivid, detailed dream recall. Within 8 weeks, spontaneous lucid dreams begin to appear. Your brain has learned that dreams matter. It has learned to pay attention to them. Mnemonic induction takes this further. Before sleep, you repeat a simple intention. Tonight, I will recognize that I am dreaming. This is not wishful thinking. It is a specific neural protocol. You are priming the same metacognitive circuits activated by reality checks. When you combine intention setting with consistent reality checks and dream journaling, the effects compound. Research from the Max Planck Institute tracked participants over 12 weeks. Those who combined all 3 practices, reality checks, journaling, and intention setting, achieved lucid dreams in approximately 70% of REM periods by week 8. The control group, which did none of these practices, experienced spontaneous lucidity in less than 5% of dreams. The difference is not genetics, it is practice. Now consider what happens in your brain during these practices. Each reality check strengthens your prefrontal cortex. Each dream journal entry reinforces hippocampal encoding. Each night's intention activates the anterior cingulate cortex, which governs self-directed attention. Over time, these pathways become dominant even during sleep. Your sleeping brain inherits the waking brain's tendency towards self-reflection. The neuroscientist Thor Nielsen calls this metacognitive skill transfer. Your brain does not compartmentalize learning. When you develop a skill in waking life, it migrates into sleep. A musician practices scales while awake. Their sleeping brain practices them too. A lucid dreamer practices awareness while awake. Their sleeping brain becomes aware. But there is something deeper happening. Brain scans reveal that consistent practice literally increases gray matter density in specific regions. People who maintain lucid dreaming practice for several months show measurable growth in the anterior prefrontal cortex and anterior insula. These are not small changes. These are structural transformations of your brain. This means something profound. Your practices are not just creating experiences. They are reshaping your physical brain. The repetition of awareness, the discipline of journaling, the nightly intention. These are not separate from neurobiology. They are neurobiology. They are the mechanism by which consciousness learns to observe itself. The most advanced practitioners move beyond these foundational techniques. They use what researchers call wake-initiated lucid dreaming, where consciousness transitions directly from waking to dreaming without losing awareness. Others use prospective memory techniques, deliberately planning what they will do in their next lucid dream. These advanced methods activate even higher-order cognitive networks, yet the foundation remains simple. Reality checks, dream journaling, intention. These three practices, maintained consistently, reshape your brain's capacity for self-awareness during sleep. They are not quick fixes. They are genuine practices that require patience and repetition. But the science is unambiguous. They work. What makes this moment in history significant is that we can now see the mechanism. We are not guessing. Neuroimaging shows us the pathways strengthening. We can measure the changes, we can predict the timeline. The mystery has not disappeared. Consciousness remains profound, but the path to lucidity has become visible. Your brain is already capable of this. You do not need special ability. You need only consistency. A few minutes each day of deliberate awareness. A few minutes each morning of writing what you remember. A few seconds each night of clear intention. These small, repeated acts accumulate into a transformation of your sleeping consciousness. The practices work because they align with how your brain naturally learns. Repetition strengthens pathways. Attention determines what your brain prioritizes. Intention shapes neural activation. You are not fighting against your brain's nature. You are working with it. You are inviting your sleeping mind to remember itself. As you move deeper into this journey, the boundary between practice and experience dissolves. The reality checks become natural. The journaling becomes a conversation with yourself. The intention becomes a simple, quiet knowing. And one night, in the midst of a dream, you will pause. You will ask yourself, am I dreaming? And for the first time, you will know the answer with absolute certainty. Your brain has been rewiring itself through practice. Each reality check, each journal entry, each intention whispered before sleep. These were not small gestures. They were invitations to consciousness itself. Now we arrive at something deeper, something that neuroscience is only beginning to articulate. When you become lucid inside a dream, you are not escaping reality, you are expanding it. Consider what happens in your brain during lucid dreaming. The prefrontal cortex, your seat of self-awareness, activates while you sleep. This is extraordinary. Most people assume consciousness and sleep are opposites like light and darkness, but lucid dreaming reveals something profound. Consciousness is not binary. It exists on a spectrum. Brain imaging studies using electroencephalography and functional magnetic resonance imaging have documented something remarkable. During lucid dreams, specific neural networks light up simultaneously. The default mode network, which handles self-reflection, becomes active. At the same time, the executive control network, which handles decision-making and planning, engages. These two systems typically work in opposition when you are awake, but during lucidity, they collaborate. What does this mean for your understanding of consciousness itself? It means that awareness is not a simple switch. It is not on or off. Consciousness is a landscape with infinite terrain. You navigate it constantly without realizing it. When you daydream at work, you are conscious but not fully present. When you drive home on autopilot, you are aware but not attentive. When you watch a film and become absorbed, your sense of self dissolves into the story. These are all shifts in consciousness, yet you remain awake. Lucid dreaming is simply another point on this vast map. But it is a point where something extraordinary occurs. You become aware of your awareness while your body sleeps. This challenges a fundamental assumption most people hold. We believe that waking consciousness is superior, that it is the only real awareness. But neuroscience suggests something different. The sleeping brain is not less conscious. It is differently conscious. It accesses information, processes emotions, and generates insights that the waking mind cannot easily reach. Think about what your brain does during sleep. It consolidates memories, integrating new information with existing knowledge. It processes emotions, softening the sharp edges of difficult experiences. It generates creative solutions by making unusual connections between distant concepts. Your brain is not resting, it is working. It is thinking in ways that waking consciousness cannot. When you become lucid, you bring intention into this process. You become a participant rather than a passive observer. You can ask questions, you can explore, you can test hypotheses about your own mind. Scientists have documented something fascinating about this. When researchers communicate with lucid dreamers in real time, using light signals or sounds that penetrate the dream without waking the person, the dreamers can respond. They can signal that they are lucid. They can perform predetermined eye movements. They can solve mathematical problems. Their consciousness, while dreaming, remains capable of complex cognition. This is revolutionary. It proves that consciousness during sleep is not diminished, it is transformed. One study had lucid dreamers attempt to estimate time intervals while dreaming. When they signaled the beginning and end of what they perceived as 10 seconds, researchers measured actual time. The dreamer's internal clock while dreaming was remarkably accurate. This suggests that your sense of time, your ability to measure experience, persists even as your body lies still, and your eyes move beneath closed lids. Another study asked lucid dreamers to perform hand movements in their dreams, while researchers monitored their motor cortex. The brain regions that control movement showed activity patterns similar to actual physical movement, even though the body remained paralyzed during REM sleep. Your brain can simulate reality so convincingly that it activates the same neural circuits as waking action. What does this reveal about the nature of consciousness? It suggests that consciousness is not dependent on external reality. Your awareness does not require sensory input from the world. Your brain can generate a complete experiential reality from within itself. The world you perceive when awake is constructed by your brain using sensory data. The world you experience in a lucid dream is constructed by your brain using memory and imagination. Both are real experiences. Both activate your consciousness. This is philosophically profound. It means that consciousness is fundamentally about the brain's capacity to generate experience, not about the external world itself. Your awareness exists independent of what is happening around you. It exists in the patterns of neural activity, in the relationships between billions of neurons firing in coordinated sequences. When you practice lucid dreaming, you are training your brain to maintain this awareness across different states. You are teaching your consciousness to remain present and intentional, regardless of whether your eyes are open or closed. You are proving to yourself, through direct experience, that your mind is far larger than you imagined. The implications extend beyond personal experience. If consciousness can persist and function during sleep, if it can generate complete worlds and solve complex problems while disconnected from external input, then consciousness is more fundamental than we assumed. It is not a product of waking experience. It is a capacity of the brain itself. This reshapes how you might understand yourself. You are not simply a being who experiences the world. You are a being whose brain continuously generates experience. When you sleep, that capacity does not disappear. It transforms. It becomes more fluid, more creative, less constrained by logic and expectation. As you continue your practice, as you accumulate more lucid dreams, you will begin to sense this directly. You will feel the boundaries between waking and sleeping consciousness becoming permeable. You will notice that insights from your dreams carry weight and relevance in waking life. You will recognize that the mind awake and the mind asleep are not separate entities. They are different expressions of the same consciousness. This is what neuroscience is beginning to confirm. This is what your own experience will validate. Consciousness is not bound by sleep. It is boundless. You have traveled far. From the skepticism that once surrounded lucid dreaming to the laboratories where scientists now observe consciousness itself flowing through sleeping brains. This journey was not about magic. It was about discovering that your mind holds far more power than you ever imagined. Let us pause here at this threshold. Behind you lies everything we have explored together. The trauma healed in vivid dreamscapes, the practices that rewired your brain week after week. The moment when scientists first heard a lucid dreamer's signal echoing back from inside a dream, and the profound realization that consciousness does not simply switch off when your eyes close. What we have discovered is this: you are not separate from your dreams. You are not a passenger in your own night. The awareness that walks with you through your waking hours does not abandon you when sleep arrives. Instead, it transforms. It becomes fluid, creative, boundless. Think back to where this exploration began. Scientists once dismissed lucid dreaming as folklore, as wishful thinking, as the brain's fantasy about itself. The skepticism was reasonable. How could anyone prove that a dreamer was truly conscious while sleeping? How could we measure something so intimate, so invisible? Then came the evidence. Brain scans revealed the truth written in light and color across neural maps. The prefrontal cortex glowed with activity. The regions responsible for self-awareness activated alongside the visual and emotional centers. Lucid dreamers were not imagining consciousness during sleep. They were living it. The communication experiments changed everything. Scientists asked lucid dreamers to signal from inside their dreams, a specific eye movement, a pattern of muscle activation, and the signals came back. Real-time proof that consciousness persists, functions, and can even follow instructions while the body lies still in darkness. This was not mysticism. This was neurobiology. This was the scientific method applied to the most intimate frontier of human experience. What does this mean for you? It means your potential extends far beyond what you have been told. The healing you experienced through lucid dreaming was not imagination. It was your conscious mind, fully aware and fully capable, reprocessing trauma at the neurological level. The practices you learned, the reality checks, the dream journaling, the intention setting, these were not rituals. They were tools that physically restructured your brain's capacity for awareness during sleep. The spectrum of consciousness we discovered reveals something profound. You are not simply awake or asleep. You exist on a continuum. There are moments when you drift towards sleep, and your mind becomes dreamlike while still holding fragments of awareness. There are moments in meditation when your body rests, but your consciousness expands. And there are nights when you become fully lucid in your dreams, commanding your own inner universe with the same intention you bring to your waking life. This spectrum is not a flaw in your brain. It is a feature. It is consciousness expressing itself in multiple modes, each one real, each one valuable, each one accessible to you. The journey from skepticism to acceptance mirrors your own potential journey. Just as science moved from doubt to evidence to wonder, so too can you move from thinking lucid dreaming is impossible to experiencing it yourself. The brain scans showed us something remarkable. The capacity for lucidity is not rare. It is not reserved for the gifted few. It lives in all of us, waiting to be awakened. Some of you will pursue lucid dreaming with intention and practice. You will keep your dream journal by your bed. You will perform reality checks throughout your day. You will set your intention each night before sleep, whispering to yourself that you will become aware in your dreams. And one night, perhaps sooner than you expect, you will find yourself standing in a landscape of your own making, fully conscious, fully alive, fully in control. Others of you may simply rest easier knowing that consciousness is more resilient than you thought, that your mind does not abandon you in sleep, that awareness is not a fragile thing that requires waking to exist, that you are, in some sense, never truly alone in the darkness. And some of you may find yourself drawn to the questions that science is still asking. How deep does consciousness go? What other capacities lie dormant in the sleeping brain? What might we become if we learn to navigate all the states of consciousness available to us? The gateway stands open now. Behind it lies the territory you have been exploring through these hours together. Ahead lies your own experience, your own dreams, your own discoveries. You have learned that lucid dreaming heals, that it is not mystical, but neurobiological. That consciousness does not end when your head touches the pillow. That scientists can now measure and even communicate with your dreaming mind. That awareness exists on a spectrum, and you can learn to access deeper levels of it. This is not the end of the journey. This is the beginning. Every night you sleep is an opportunity. Every dream is a doorway. Every moment of lucidity is a victory of consciousness over the assumption that sleep means surrender. Your gateway awaits. It has always been there, waiting in the space between waking and sleeping, in the moment just before you drift away. The science is clear, the evidence is real, your potential is infinite. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of consciousness, healing, and the extraordinary power of the dreaming mind. If this journey has touched something within you, if you feel the pull toward your own lucid dreams, I invite you to subscribe to Relaxing Science. Let us continue exploring the frontiers of consciousness together. Share with us. Will you venture into your own lucid dreams? What would you do with full consciousness in a world of your own creation? Leave your thoughts below. Your answer matters. Your curiosity matters. Your consciousness, in all its forms, matters. Tonight, as you close your eyes, remember, you are not leaving awareness behind. You are stepping into a different expression of it. Sleep well, dream vividly, and perhaps, just perhaps, become aware within your dreams. The gateway is open. The choice is yours.